Hello everyone, how are you? Today we will solve another problem. Problem number 24, swap nodes in pairs. It's of medium level and we are given a list node like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and require from us to swap every two adjacent nodes, like swap 1 with 2 and swap 3 with 4, and maybe there's 5 and 6, swap 5 with 6, and so on. But if at the end there's only one node, like in this example 5, we leave it as it is. And we are not allowed, for example, to do swapping by only changing the value. We put here 2 and we put here 1 and that's all. Or we put here 4 and we put here 3, change the value. That's not allowed. We have to swap the node itself exactly. So in this example, 1, 2, 3, 4 will be 2, 1. This come here and like this, and this come here, and 3, 4 will become 4, 3. So 3 come here and 4 comes here. Okay, at the beginning it seems easy, but actually it's not. We need to be careful with the pointers, because at first 1 is pointing to 2 and now 1 is pointing to 4. 2 was pointing to 3 and now 2 is pointing to 1, as you see. And 3 was pointing to 4, now 3 is pointing to none, okay. And 4, it was pointing to none, now 4 is pointing to 3. Anyway, if you notice, I'll explain it here. If you notice, there's a pattern. The second node, this is first, this is second. The second node, it always point to the previous node. Like here, 2 point to 1 and 4 point to 3. And the first node is always point to either after 3 nodes or to none. If it's at the end, it will point to none, but here it points to after 3 nodes. Anyway, this is a little bit confusing. Okay, so let me explain it in a better way. First, I'm gonna need to create a dummy node. Let's put value 0, and this is, I will call it previous. Why previous? Because we work on every 2 nodes. We swap every 2 nodes. So I will call this one current nodes, this current nodes, okay, and this is previous and this is next, the next 2 that we work on. But actually we need only the next node, not both of them. To perform this swap, to perform swap on this one, we need the previous node, only one. If we are swapping these, we only need this one as previous. We need the both nodes, both of them, and we need the next node, only the next node. Why? Because the process, it will be like this. While we have 2 active nodes that are not none, because here it's none, it's none. So if either one of them is none, we stop either one. While we have both of them exist active, what we have, we call this P, we call this current 1, we call this current 2, and we call this next. So it's very easy. What we do is we do the C2 dot next will be C1. C2, this C2 dot next is C1, as you see, because 2 come here, we swap to 1. So C2, let me write it, C2 dot next will equal C1, and this C1 dot next will be here in this example, will be this node, but at first we will set it to the next, and C1 dot next will be the new node, the n. Let me make it bigger. So first I will point this to 3 because this is the final solution, but the temporary state, this one will be 3. So we'll point 1 to 3. Okay, and what we have, the previous, the dummy node, here is dummy, but later it will not be dummy. The previous dot next will point to this node, which is C2, equals C2. And what's left is we did everything here. Okay, we said that dummy, the previous will be now become C1. This one will be C1. Okay, let me explain it. Here we have C2 dot next will be C1, this one, and C1 dot next will be 3, as temporary stage, and then we have previous dot next will be C2, and then we change the previous to become this node. This one become previous. So this will be previous, this will be C1, this will be C2, and this will be next. Okay? Yeah, I hope it's clear. So after this, let's do the same operation. C24 dot next will be C1, and C1 is the 3, and correct, 4, it will be pointing to 3, as you see. C1 here is the 3, dot next will be N5, so 3 dot next is pointing to N. This is N. And we have previous, which is this one, this node is previous. Dot next will point to C2, which in this case C2 is 4, and we update the pointer here to point to 4. It was pointing to 3. After we swap these two, it will change the pointer to 4, and this will become the previous. Maybe we have 2 more nodes here to continue working, and at the end we simply retain dummy.next. Okay, so let's go now to the Jupyter lab and we implement our solution. So we create dummy node equal list node, let's give it 0 and pointing to the head, and we create previous equal dummy, and while p.next, which is the C1, and p.next, which is the C2, while they are active, we have value not unknown. We define C1 equal p.next, the node after the dummy node for now. C2 is easy, p.next, and equal p. We can do it like this. Okay, we can call it C2.next, and we can, for example, C2.next. The same, but I like to call it .next. Anyway, now we defined our nodes as variable. Now we do the swapping. So p.next will point to C2, and C2.next will point to C1, and C1.next will point to the N. And finally, we redefine the previous to be the new C1. And that's it. We return dummy.next. Let's test it. Okay, now we have our list node is 1, 2, 3, 4. We test it, become 2, 1, 4, 3. This if we have 4 values. What if you have 5 values from 1 to 5? We test it, become 2, 1, 4, 3, 5, and it's correct. And now let's copy the code and go to the Leetcode website and test it there. I paste the code here. Let's submit. Hopefully everything will be correct. And yeah, 100%. We beat the time complexity for this problem. It's working fine. Thank you very much for watching. Please leave a comment and I'll see you in the next video.